Okay, so good morning, everyone. Everyone can see me? First of all, I want to really thank you again as an event organizer. I'm just really impressed with what you did here. Thank you very much for the organizer. Good morning, everyone. All right, cool. Thank you for letting me be a part of this event. I want to start with something, do something fun together. I want all of you, is there any developers in the crowd? Just raise your hand. All right, all right, cool. So let's start with, I want you to close your eyes and think, what is the most exciting thing in your application? Like when you're coding, wow, what makes you really excited about it, all right? So let's take a brief second about that, all right? Now let me guess. All of you thinking about forms? Yeah, agree with me, huh? Good, because my talk is about forms. So if you think that forms aren't excited enough, you can, I don't know, do Facebook or something. My name is Nir. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a Google developer expert. I'm acting as the head of Angular in my company and 500 Tech, which means that all day I'll be sitting there alone in my Angular corner. So come talk with me, bring me food, water, or stuff. I'm a worldwide speaker, but it's my first time here in Romania in general. And you're great people, and I'm having so much fun, and I just got it. And the fun just got started. And I'm also organized some community events, meetups, and stuff. I can tell you all about that after it, because we are not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about Angular. Angular love forms. A lot of companies choose Angular because how it deals with forms. And how many of you are doing Angular? All right, cool. How many of you doing Angular 2? 4? 5? Angular 6? So forms in Angular are very, very, very exciting thing. It's so exciting that I even wrote a book about Angular, and I'm considering doing a tattoo of form input. So if you're into tattoos, please talk with me later, all right? If you know any tattoo studio here in Romania, I'll do it, really. Just give me a couple of beers and I'll probably do it. Let's get started. Forms are complicated, but in Angular, forms are actually really simple. In a moment, I'm going to do some crazy thing and trying to do live coding as the first talk. Probably everything will fail, but it will be fun. In Angular, we're talking about a very object-oriented way to deal with forms. So there is this abstract class named abstract control, and his job to represent a form control. In other words, track the form control state. I'm valid, I'm not valid, what's my value, everything inside one abstract class. And this class gets extended by another class named form control, which represent a single control, and two other classes which represent two data structures that we can put form control inside of them. So if you take a look at this slide, this is actually everything you need to know about the design behind Angular forms, which is, I think, straightforward and simple. Is there any C# developers here? C#, Java? All right. PHP? Get out. No. I'm kidding, I'm kidding. If you're PHP positive and you want to talk about that, so we can sit after. We got a group of PHP developers talking about their hard life, and we're trying to help them. You don't need to live with PHP anymore. Yeah. Okay, if you want to get started with forms in Angular, all you need to do is to import the Reactive Forms module, like everything else in Angular. Just bring the module and you've got everything you need. So this is for the setup. Okay. In Angular, we're talking about a state of mind when we are building forms. We name it a model-driven form. In other words, how many of you dealt with Angular JS? Just let me know. all right, not all of you, but a lot of people here. In other frameworks, when you deal with forms, you usually work a lot with the HTML, with the markup. In Angular reactive forms, most of our work is on the code side. That's the reason we call it a model-driven form. So if I jump straight to my editor, I've got here a very, very basic Angular app. I've got nothing here, just a component with nothing inside of it. And if I want to start and build a form, I need to think about the shape of my form. So let's build a JSHero form. So I've got a name, and maybe age, which is a number, and a Boolean can code. Let's hope that JSHero can code. And I don't know, maybe skills. PHP positive, yeah. Anyway, when you start with the form, you just start with an interface. You think about your data model. That's the basic. Because once you know which data you want to extract from the form, the process of actual building the form will look something like this. I will create a public JSHero form. The type will be form group, because the form is just a group of controls. And inside my constructor, I can take this JSHero form and instantiate form group. The form group constructor, like I said before, it's a map. So now I can map the name to new form control. And I can just duplicate it for the age and can code and skills. Technically, you've got a working form in Angular. So if there is anyone here who ever used a class-based language, object-oriented style, a classic language, it should be a very familiar code. But there is a lot of boiler code here. I mean, you need to instantiate by yourself all of those objects, the control, and a form group can contain another form group and a form array, and it's become very messy. So Angular reactive forms give you a helper class named form builder. So it can be much more easier just to do something like this. I want a group, and I want, take all of this, just initialize value. Technically, we've got a form. I know that all of you are very excited right now, but keep it for later. To prove you that I've got a working form, I can implement a submit method. Take this JSHero form, let's take its value, and log it to the console. Okay? Set a constructor, let's call this submit, and hopefully we'll get nothing, because I've got a bunch of errors, because the most important thing that I didn't do is ask for the reactive forms module. All right. No, don't worry. So as you can see, technically I've got a working form. I just log the value and I get the exact interface. I didn't use the interface, but I've got the data already ready to be sent. Age, can code, name, and skills. So everything working. And the one thing that we can learn about this code, that the form control doesn't care if your form element is a string, is a Boolean, is a number. Angular treats them all the same. Okay? Nice. So we've got a form, and for reference, I put a few slides for you, so you can use this, my slides later to remember this. You're thinking about the interface, and you're structuring your form just like this. All right, let's move forward. We've got a working form, but we want to build, of course, a user interface for it. So in Angular, once you create your form control instance, you use a set of spatial directives to bind those instances to your HTML. So the process, again, will be straightforward. I'm using the Bootstrap CSS framework to make it a little bit more friendly. Now I'm heading to my HTML. I'm going to create a div. And this is coming from Bootstrap. I'm going to create just a row and 2 columns. You'll see later what I did it. And now just a simple HTML form. So I've got a form. Let's make a div with some CSS. This will be form group. Here I got a label for the name. Okay. And an input, type text, and some CSS class, form control. Let's take this input, duplicate it. So we've got one for the name, one for the age, the can code, which should be a checkbox, and the last one was skills. Okay? Skills can be, let's do something interesting, a range. 0 to, I don't know, 100. Let's add a button. Okay? Simple HTML, nothing Angular, nothing fancy. Now it's going to get angularized. This is the term, the professional term. I'm going to take this form and to angularize it. And use a special directive, a form group, all right, and bind the form group to this JSHero form instance on my class. So I've got a form, everything probably connected, but we'll see it in a second. It's not enough to bind the form group to the instance of this form group control. I need to register each one of the form element on the group. In other words, you see this name, age, can code, part of the map in my form group. So each one of my controls, I'm going to use the form control name and register with the same name. So this is the name control, this is the age control, this is the can code, and last one will be skills. Okay? Nothing changed. I want to catch the submit event because I'm working with Angular forms. There is a spatial event, a wrapper around the native submit event of the form. So I'll catch the ng submit instead of the regular submit, and I can bind it to the submit method we put on our class. So if I go back here, we can remove this, and hopefully when I hit submit, I'll get the form with all the values inside. Let's give it a try. My name is Nir. Of course, I'm 22. No, I'm kidding. I'm old. This is my real age. Let's do this, send, and you've got an object with everything inside. In other words, most of my work here was plain HTML, which all of you hopefully know how to do. The only Angular part, your learning curve of building this form, is this code. Create an instance, all right? Cool? Who think it's easy? No one? You want me to cut it to go away? No. All right. What we want to do with forms? We want to look at forms, all right? We want to validate forms, usually. Validations in Angular, it's still simple. A validator is just a function who accepts the value of the control. You can do something with it, and you can return, if everything is all right, you're returning a null object. If something went wrong, you're returning an object that described the error. This is the theoretical part. Let's see it in action. Angular supports the native validations of HTML5, which means that if I want, I don't know, if the age is required, I can just use required. I don't need to learn anything new. So I can do it right here in the template, in the HTML, and I can also use JavaScript and use some built-in validators. So I'm initialize a null value and using a static class named validators, choosing the min length of 6. So right now, my name control has a validation, minimum length of 6 characters. And here, the age has a required validation. But you can't really tell if something went wrong because we don't have any way to see it. So what I'm going to do now, right here, I'm going to bind my JSHero dot valid property to the template. Maybe we'll do another thing. Let's take the value and bind it to the template as well. Let's do this. Pray. It will be a little bit more nice to see. All right? So now we can see that my form is it's not valid, it's false. Let's type something. Nir is not enough. The age is required, so I put 18. Now is true, and you can see all the values. Which means that if you want to build a dynamic template, you can just use this. And if I'm interested on a specific control on this form group map, let's say I'm interested on the name. I can do a JSHero, which is the form control. Please get me the name, and I want to know if it's valid or invalid. I want to know if it's dirty. I want to know if it had been touched. I can control a set of form control states. So I can use it in my code, and I can bind it to my template and use like ngIf and conditional templates, hide and show some things because I've got everything right at the tip of my fingers. Right? Cool? Great. All right. I've got only like a half an hour left or so. Where's the organizer? Yeah? Half an hour? No? 9 minutes? 7:50. 7:48. Let's make it, let's wait until it will be like 5 minutes. And no. All right. Back to the slide. Custom validations, all right? Custom validations should be hard because it's custom validations. And if you want to say that something is complicated, just put the name custom before of it, and it's become very complicated. I need to build a custom div tag, but it's custom. Let's say that the name, let's put these validations aside. I want to write a function. This function will get the control, and I want to check if the control.value, just the value, all right, the value, index of hero not equals -1. If everything all right and valid, if not, I can return an object and describe what's wrong. And this is a custom validator, just a function. We accept the control. You can check something. If everything all right, you're returning a null object. If something went wrong, you're returning an object. And inside this object, you can describe what happened. So probably now my name won't be valid. Let's check it. Oh, I did something wrong. Index of is undefined because I'm starting with a null. So let's start with initial value of just a string. Refresh and pray. Almost. Index of undefined. It's values, it's not value. Okay. Now false, near, let's put an age over here. Now, hero and true. I think it went true before, but everything seems to be work. All right? Anyway, custom validation, just put a function. Do whatever you need to do, and that's it. No. I just forgot what I want to say, so it was like a pause. All right, validation, it's not enough because if something went wrong, usually we want to add some styles to it. So we already seen that we've got like a set of booleans inside of this abstract class, and we can check if the form group or any of the form controllers are valid, invalid, pending, dirty, whatever. Most of the time, we will like to add some CSS to it. Luckily, Angular is doing it for us. If you inspect this element, for example, let's do an inspect element and take a look on this input. Hopefully, you see those set of CSS classes, pristine, valid, touched. If I interact with this form, you can see it changing. All right, now it's valid, it's touched, it's dirty. Which control I'm looking at? Which input is this? The name, all right. So I've got a set of CSS classes that dynamically changing and represent the state of the control, okay? Let's go back to the code. I'm trying to talk and code together, which is not possible if you're a man. So I'll be quiet for a second. It's not possible. All right. Let's see how we can use those automatic CSS classes. Again, it's going to be very easy. You just need to know which classes Angular is giving you. So I can do, like, inside my CSS file, if the input is ng invalid, do something horrible like this. Yeah. And if it's valid, it should be green. And if it's, I don't know, untouched, it should be yellow. So now it's untouched, it's yellow, it's valid because it's not required, this is required, so it's red. I can put something here, now it's valid. I can type something here until I get valid. Hopefully your CSS skills are better than mine, but the message is you've got CSS as a present. All you need to do is just implement your styles in the CSS file, which is cool. I think so. Okay. Let's summarize. Let's see what we learned today about forms in Angular. Okay? So I'll do the professional summarize first, and then say a few personal words, if you don't mind. So let's start the professional part. Angular love forms. Okay? You love Angular. If you love Angular, Angular loves you back. If you love Angular and Angular loves you, means that you love forms. Right? So that's the technical part. But to get serious, we just see a slight demo of how Angular make building a forms an easy task. I mean, your learning curve should be, I need to know what is an abstract control, what is a form group, and form control. Maybe a form array. From this point and on, your form is driven by code. So everything you're doing inside the class will affect the user interface. On the HTML side, just a simple set of standard tags, the form, the inputs, we bind it to the instance on our class, and that's it. So you can build great stuff with it, and you've got great methods to dynamically add control to the forms. You can create your own custom form controls. As you've seen, you can create easily custom validations, if it's sync or async validations, and a lot of other exciting stuff. So if you want to learn more about forms, first of all, you'll get the slide after it. You can grab some demo code that I prepared inside my GitHub under the Angular Reactive Forms book. And there is the book I've written, and I created a special coupon for you, so all of you can get it for free. So you can read and learn everything you want to know about forms. And if you read this book, I'll be here until Saturday. so we can get together and do this tattoo that I really want to do. Anyway, I'll be at my corner all day and most of the night. So please come talk with me, be with me, all right? Just don't leave me there alone. I mean, there is this note. All right, we talk. I don't have time for this. Thank you very much. Someone? The host? The next speaker? I just go away. That's it. Questions? Yes, questions. Where? Where? On the screen. Cool. How do I handle server validation in Angular reactive forms? You create a custom validator, and there is a concept of async custom validator. So the validator can go to the server, wait for an answer, and the status of the control will be I'm pending. I'm not valid or invalid, I'm just pending. So you handle server-side validation by sending a request to the server, waiting for a response, and you got a spatial status for it. All right? Next. Is it possible to bind more than one object to the form? Maybe an array of objects? Yes. Next. Can you map error message coming from the server back to the form? Yes. Next. Can you validate only on Blur? Yes. Next. Can you validate? Where it is? How do you reset a form? You've got a method, form control dot reset. That's it. Next. Why is Angular so complicated? Because if it wasn't complicated, I probably will be jobless. So it's complicated because this way we can write books about it. No, I mean, Angular is not supposed to be complicated. It really depends on your background. AngularJS, the first version, for me, it was much more complicated than the new one. The new one is based on TypeScript classes and a lot of very, very simple ideas of object-oriented programming. So it really depends on your background. Personally, I don't think it's complicated, but it's very subjective. Where did you use the JSHero interface? Nowhere. Next. I didn't really. It was just for the demo. But in real project, I probably will use it to say, all right, the value of this form is implementing this interface. Okay? Are all the speakers entertainers? Hopefully. How can you do sync validations? Come to my Angular corner. The corner is in the middle, so it's very confused. It's not really a corner. Anyway, come to my Angular corner, and I'll show you a wonderful world of validations. How would you integrate forms in Redux pattern? Easily, and I've got a great example, live example. I just did a talk about combining the two, and in my book, you've got a chapter dedicated to sync Angular forms with Redux. So I can tell you about it, I can show you some demos, and you can read about it in my book. All right? That's it? All right, thank you very much.